Hello, football fans. Welcome back to Heart of the Line. This is our Week 13 review show. Hopefully, at some point during this episode, we'll figure out what the title of the review show for this week will be. But as always, I am your host, Chapman, and with me are my two buddies, Tom and Ollie. How are we, guys?
Good.
Very good, thanks.
Still recovering after that disaster class from the weekend, but I'm not going to get into that at all. So we'll just quickly
Just
move on from
gloss
that.
over that one, yeah.
Quickly move on from that.
I believe you're talking about the college football game, which was the Ohio State Buckeyes losing to the Michigan
Yeah,
Wolverines. Yeah, that was rough. I mean, this was a fun weekend of college. I wish I was on the college
it
pod this weekend
it
because
was. Yeah, we had some
uh,
great games, rivalry games.
obviously my team played in like one of the most epic games
Mm.
Eight
ever.
overtimes, was it?
Eight
That
overtimes,
was
yeah.
8 overtimes.
I went to bed at half, and I'm so glad I did because if I had had to stay up for all that, like I had text messages. I had a couple friends that were there at the game in Athens, and like 5 a.m. I was getting text messages at 5 a.m. I was like, oh my goodness, I would have been so mad. I mean, just it's not in me anymore unless it's the Super Bowl. So,
Yeah, I'm
our,
trying to prepare myself tonight to stay up for to 4 a.m. for the Browns game. But as you said, it gets harder and harder each year.
yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of competitive games this weekend, as you say. But we're here to talk about NFL.
Thankfully,
Um, Yep. And there was some games. Obviously, this is Thanksgiving week, so there were some games on Thanksgiving, but we feel like at this point they've probably been talked through and passed through. But I think the big thing we do want to hit, just sort of breaking the huddle into these news, is that obviously the Chicago Bears fired coach Matt Eberflus after losing to the Lions on Thanksgiving Day. That's a tough one because they had a chance to tie the game, and this isn't an overtime for a win. And obviously, a lot of mismanagement towards the end. Caleb Williams takes a terrible sack, and then gets back up to the line with about 20 seconds to go, I think, and the clock
yeah,
just winds all the way
it
down.
just
He gets
it
up,
was a
they get one
complete
play off,
yeah,
and it's an incomplete pass. So anyway, Eberflus is gone. I think that's a pretty quality job, wouldn't you guys say?
yeah,
yeah.
Uh,
100%.
I'm assuming they're going to probably want to bring in someone who is an offensive coach to come in and
Yeah.
try to work with Caleb Williams or somebody who can build an infrastructure around Caleb Williams, who's had a lot of ups and downs this year, but I think we all agree that he's got a lot of potential in this league.
Yeah,
As
I mean, he
of
played great in that second half as well. So like
yeah.
it wasn't, yeah, it was, he's got a lot of potential. It's just, they need the right coach and Eberflus was not that. So
he
And
was not.
as you say, Chapman, you want to get an offensive guy there. Just when you've got a young, as we say, a quarterback that we all believe can be great in this league, you want to pair him with someone that, can stick with him for 10, 15 years, hopefully. Not, if you bring a defensive guy in and you get an offensive coordinator, yeah, it might be great, but then the offensive coordinator gets hired by some other team. So it's always beneficial in that situation to have an offensive guy.
Yeah, it's tough. It'll be interesting. They've got a lot of good pieces there, and did they fire their GM already too, or is he? I
No,
can't
they've
remember.
they've said that
no,
they're sticking with him. He's going to be part of the head coach
There we go.
search. So obviously, this is his final chance to, if he gets this wrong, then obviously that would definitely be him gone.
that's Ryan Poles, right?
Ryan
Yeah.
Poles, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I thought so.
former chief.
Yeah, former
He's
chief.
famous for being in the video of the draft room when you drafted Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
I've seen it many a time.
Well, there you go. Well, the Bears fans in my life are very happy. They are ready to move
I
on,
can
and
imagine.
hopefully, yes. Um, it's week 13. Before we dive into the games, this is kind of the last week before some people start their fantasy playoffs. But if you're not doing fantasy or your team stinks and you're looking for another way, we'd also like to introduce you to our official sponsor, which is Fantasy Game Day, and the first and only NFL daily fantasy app made by UK fans for UK fans. You can create your own lineup, manage your budget, compete against other fellow UK fans, and maybe even win some money in the process, which sounds good to me. You just head over to Fantasy Game Day app. The link will be down in our description of the episode. You download the app, you sign in, and you use the code HURDLE. That's HURDLE without the U, HRDLE, and you receive a free play worth up up to worth £7.50 when you deposit and play for the first time. So we ask you to please support our sponsor, Fantasy Game day app, they've been great. And hopefully, maybe enjoy and win some money responsibly. All right, moving on, guys. Oh, also just remember it's 18 and up to gamble, please. All right, guys. Well, we're gonna get in this week 18, 18. I'm skipping forward in my life. Uh, week 13 stretch. We're gonna talk about the Sunday games. A lot of really fun games yesterday. Another good slate, but a lot of like weird matchups, I guess you could
Mhm.
say. One of which we'll come to next. But yesterday, who would have thought one of the more interesting games would be the upstart Carolina Panthers against the NFC South division winners from last season, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are trying to catch up to the Falcons and probably will. Uh, anyway, this is a really fun game. Bryce Young played great. Baker Mayfield played well, but had some mistakes. But ultimately, the Buccaneers won 26 to 23. Ollie, tell us about this game.
I think Tom will be a better person to tell him about the game since he's been raving about it all day to me. So I'll throw it quickly to
Sorry.
Tom.
No worries. Yeah, as Chapman said, it was the sort of game that didn't expect too much out of it, but it's actually a really exciting game. Started off with a great Mike Evans one-handed catch in the end zone. I mean, the guy's catch radius is just ridiculous. So he can catch anything really. So, it started off with a nice touchdown from him. Then the Panthers got a few different field goals, and then Bryce Young, he played really well in this game. He's really shown some improvement since coming back from being benched. He's really, taken on the role of being the team's talisman, and he got a touchdown run, actually, at 10 yards, that kind of brought the game back level. Then they kind of each team exchanged field goals, and then until the fourth quarter, which is where it kind of really lit up. Bucky Irvin had a really good game. I think he had over 140 all-purpose yards. Had himself a touchdown as well. But it looked like the Panthers were actually going to go and win this game. Adam Thielen caught a beautiful touchdown, only for it then to be ruled out. But then he did go and score another touchdown, with a beautiful throw from Bryce Young, to put them on top with less than 30 seconds left. So it really looked like, Bryce Young had, drove them down the field and put them in the position to win the game. Unfortunately for them, Chase McLaughlin made a 51-yard field goal to bring it to overtime. And then Chuba Hubbard, who's been, one of the premier backs this season. He fumbled inexplicably in overtime, allowing the Bucks to recover, and then McLaughlin to hit the Chase McLaughlin to hit the winning points. So it was a really exciting game, though. It was very much back and forth, especially in that fourth quarter. It seemed like either team could win. I thought the Panthers had won it with 30 seconds left, but all credit to the Bucks for driving down and being able to hit that field goal. So yeah, really exciting game from that really. And yeah, Bryce Young resurgence continues really. I mean he played a really good game. Baker Mayfield did as well. Baker Mayfield actually got injured in this game as well. He had like a 300-pound lineman step right on his ankle, which I don't think that would be very nice.
Hmm.
But he's a tough SOB, so he went out for one play, came back in out of the medical tent, and then just continued his business. So, but
Hmm.
yeah, really good game, really exciting one.
Yeah, he had that running play on that drive as well in that last 30 seconds of the game to get him even closer into field goal range on that bummy ankle. He has his faults, but one thing you can't discredit Baker Mayfield is you can't call him soft. He's definitely someone that is willing to play through the pain, as seen at his time in Cleveland and at his other stops as well. For me, I mean, you just got to be sick if you're a Panthers fan and you see Adam Thielen make what is one of the best catches I've seen in recent years. That one-handed catch on, was it third or fourth down, to
Yeah.
keep that drive going in overtime, and you're thinking they've got all the momentum, they're going to go and score. Very next play, Chuba Hubbard, as you said, fumbles the ball, and it's just like wow. I mean, it talked about going from pure joy to pure pain. I felt awful for the Panthers and Panthers fans in that situation. As you said, Tom, Bryce Young played really well. we said last week on this podcast, the admiration we have for him for, kind of sticking through the adversity that he's been through in already in such a young career, and how happy we are to see him, come through that almost. So, I am rooting for him. So, you get annoyed when it's out of his hands, and it ends because of such an unfortunate situation like that. But as you said, credit to the Buccaneers, they took advantage. They still had to go get into field goal range. They did that, and ended up winning this game.
That's football,
Yep.
especially come December. So, but yeah, and I gotta say, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a team I would not necessarily want to play in that first round of the playoffs if things keep going their way. They're still half a game back on Atlanta. Atlanta does have uh, you know uh, the tiebreaker because they beat them head to head twice. But the Buck schedule and the Atlanta Falcons schedule both seem pretty easy, so it's going to be interesting what will happen. There's little room for error for Atlanta moving forward, thanks to their competence yesterday, which we'll get to later. Um, but yeah, the NFC, like this Bucks team has been there, done that. They have a bunch of guys who've won Super Bowls. Baker Mayfield is not like as you say, it's not just that he's tough too, but he's not deterred like when they're down and like he can bring a team back. So it'll be and they have a pretty easy schedule the rest of the way. So I do believe they are probably the best team in the NFC South as things say. And anyway, we'll see. Sorry about that with Tom. I'm sorry I threw the Ollie, but now I'm going to throw Ollie to the next game,
Yep.
which this was the one when I said there's some weird matchups this week.
Yeah.
These are two teams I don't ever think about playing each other, but that was
Yeah.
the Seattle Seahawks playing
Yeah.
the New York Jets. It was another Jetsy game towards the end. Seahawks wins 26-21. Tell us about this one, Ollie.
I mean, you're so right. As you said, it's a matchup that doesn't feel like it should really be happening. The uniforms don't look right when they're playing against each other on the TV. It all just feels a bit weird, and it kind of was a weird game overall. The Jets build an early lead in this game, two touchdowns in the first quarter, one to Devontae Adams, who, at that point you're thinking, okay, this is going to be the game where Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, find that old chemistry and go off and have a really good game. Another touchdown to, I think it was Isaiah Davis, was it? Um,
Yeah.
with the second one. So they get an early 14-point lead. The Seahawks are then able to respond with a touchdown of their own to AJ Barner. But then the Texans get another touchdown. Sorry, the Jets get another touchdown to go 21-7. And at this point, the way the game's going, you're thinking that they're going to run away with this, and it's going to be their day. That came obviously after the 99 yard kickoff return by Andres Coulson. Andres Coulson, was it?
No,
Who
no,
is
no.
it?
It was
He's the
Onyeka
kicker.
Okongwu,
Yeah, that's it. I
who
can't
used
say
to
his
be the
name. That's why I
Vikings
went to the other
returner. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
name. Yeah, so at this point, you're thinking the Jets are going to run away with it. They're going to win this game. But the Seahawks are able to respond before the half. They cut the lead back down to 16-21, and then the game kind of just stalls for the entire third quarter. There's not really much going on. It's a bit back and forth. Both offenses not really doing anything, and then the Seahawks in the fourth quarter were able to basically pull away, scored a field goal, and then scored the touchdown at Charbonnet, a touchdown run, to basically top this off. And as you said, it was kind of Jetsy. They had a really good start to this game. Looked like they were comfortable. Looked like they were in the driver's seat, and then just stalled out and kind of let the game get away from them, as they've seemed to have done in quite a lot of games this season. Aaron Rodgers wasn't particularly great in this game, as he, again, similar with the Jets, same with him. He's not been great all season either. So Jets fall to what, 3-9 now. We already knew their season was over. It's even more so over. I'm sure we're going to get a load of funny reports coming out of the Jets camp regarding Aaron Rodgers and that whole situation this week. But yeah, another Jets loss, and obviously a good win for the Seahawks in that kind of wild west that is the NFC West right now, with how open that is. So good win for them to obviously keep their lead at the top of that division.
Yeah, I was going to say for the Seahawks as well, Leonard Williams had an absolute monster game. The
Yeah,
former Jet himself, he picked off Aaron Rodgers and, for a 300-pound man to be running down the sideline for like a 61-yard touchdown. interception
I think it
return
was
for the
92
touchdown.
yards. Credit to, I think it was 92 yards.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. So yeah, that was insane. Like I was expecting him to fall over at some point. But
Yeah.
he just kept going. He had
Kept
two
going.
sacks, I think, as well. And then for me, the pain for me was that I was starting Brees Hall in fantasy, and he just had the worst game possible. I think he had two fumbles. And that was the reason why I lost to you, Chapman, in the the line fantasy. So but yeah, really, yeah, as you said, a very interesting game. Like seemed like a tale of two halves, really, right?
Yeah.
And then yeah, the Jets just kind of imploded as they have so often this season. So
Yeah. I mean, you don't feel bad for the Jets, but you almost are like, I mean, what more bad things could happen to this team? But and I wonder if it feels like we're seeing the last of Aaron Rodgers too at this point.
mm,
I just I don't know. I mean, I'm sure if somebody's willing to pay him 40 or $50 million or whatever it is, I think he has a 50, $40 million, some sort of option with the Jets, um,
yeah, I
but
think they're looking to move on, and even then, like
they
they
should.
could have gone up in this game as well. I think, well, they were already up 21-7, but they had another chance for a touchdown as well. I think it was Garrett Wilson, like if Aaron Rodgers hits him in stride, then it's 28-7, it's a different game. But he misses him on the outside, like a kind of not it wasn't even that difficult of a throw, really. And he just completely misses him. And then next thing it's tied, and then yeah, Seahawks take the lead and then they're back. So
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Ollie. Um, I got the NFC North game that's the game of the week this week, which is exciting, which was the duel between Russell Wilson and Joe Burrow. And weirdly crazy enough, Russell Wilson comes out on top in this one. It's the Steelers defeating the Cincinnati Bengals 44 to 38, and which was a pretty much a back and forth game up until around the third quarter, and then some really costly turnovers on the Bengals' part, mostly from Joe Burrow losing not one but two fumbles, along with another interception. Um, really cost them this game. I would say the tale of two halves was just they were exchanging touchdowns and then some field goals around the third quarter, and then with those turnovers, the Pittsburgh goes up 10 on them. And then the next thing you know, it's 41 to 24, and it's just a clock management game at that point in the fourth quarter where the Steelers just play keep away as long as they can, and they seal this one away. Um, you know, it wasn't that long ago where Justin Fields had been, I believe, undefeated almost, or at least like 4-1 or something like that. And then Russell Wilson comes in and everyone's questioning it. And he has just led this Steelers team now. And he's looking great every week. Granted, the Bengals defense isn't anything to write home about in this case, but this Pittsburgh Steelers team is now 9-3. They still have a good shot at being the third, possibly even the second seed, depending on how things shake out. And honestly, they're really balanced and they're just good. They're just really competent at everything, which says a lot about their coaching, obviously. Um, Pickens had a really fun day. He got about 74 yards and a touchdown. The ground game was okay with Najee getting about 75 yards and a touchdown as well, but it was really a story about Wilson just making plays and looking really good. Now, it doesn't mean that Joe Burrow wasn't great as always, but man, at this point, it's just numbers now. Like he's having video game numbers, but man, he's not winning anything. And this Bengal team is definitely now got to be out of the playoff picture at this point. I know that not technically eliminated, but you
four
just
and
don't
eight,
see that.
yeah, it's tough.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't. I think they're going to really have to think hard about whether they want to hold on to their coach or what they want to do here in the offseason and how to make this team better. Um, Anyway, did you guys have any other thoughts on this one? It was a fun game, but then it just sort of kind of got boring
Yeah.
once
It
Pittsburgh
was
kind of
the it was the most
got
points scored in a first quarter of a Bengals Steelers game ever.
really.
So pretty wild start and uncharted territory for this matchup. So as you said, really back and forth in the first half, and then obviously the mistakes by the Bengals and the Steelers were able was it a 20-point lead or 18-point lead or something? They managed to quickly build, and then the Bengals were able to slowly chip away with it, but in the end, they didn't have enough time, and obviously ended up losing this game. I just want to quickly read out Joe Burrow's stats on the season. So he leads the league in completions with 302. He leads the lead in passing with 3,337 yards, and he leads the lead in touchdowns with 30 to only 5 interceptions. These are MVP caliber numbers, and as you said, Chapman, they are just numbers because they are 4-8. If I had read those numbers out to you and didn't tell you what team and what the record was, you'd have assumed that's one of these 8-3 or 9-3 teams, not a team that's 4-8. It's actually insane to think about, and it's, as you said, at this point, you can not give him the blame and trying to say that he's putting up all his numbers, but at the end of the day, at some point it is just numbers. So I don't know. It's just crazy to think about. It's something, and as you said, there's a lot that they need to think about in that organisation in this off season regarding the coach and obviously the players they've got there, whether they're going to pay them or not, and stuff like that. So not the best time to be a Bengals fan. Obviously, I'm not too displeased about that. If one team in Ohio is going to be bad this year, there better be two teams in Ohio that are bad this year. So I'll just leave it at that. But the Steelers, I mean, I hate to say it, but credit to them. 18th consecutive season now without a losing record. I'm just happy that they weren't able to achieve that against us last week, and it was the Bengals this week that gave them that record.
Yeah, I was going to say just a quick one on the Bengals as well. They fall to 1-7 in one score games as
Yeah,
well. So
and I
they just
think
haven't been able to close out those close games. And also, I think they also are 1-3 or something, and when scoring 38 points, and every other team in the NFL, I think is
yeah,
a combined 23-0 or something in the last like few years. So
they
yeah, they
haven't
just
beat a team with a winning record either this season.
no. So yeah, it's just not been. It's been a season to forget on the defensive side anyway. Like I mean, they might lose. They might fire Lou Anarumo. I mean, I expect they will.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just going to be there's going to be wholesale changes in Cincinnati, I think. So yeah.
Um, Funny enough, another little stat on this game, we're going to move on, is that Russell Wilson also passed for a season best 414 yards and 3 touchdowns. And it's his first 400-yard game in 5 years and only the third of his career. Pretty amazing stuff. I'm just gonna say this, Ollie. This is what the Uncle Chapman part of me would say. Joe Burrow can't play defense too.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah,
anyway,
that I wasn't suggesting that it is Joe Burrow's fault by any
I know
means.
you
The
weren't.
the defense is by far the biggest to blame for these results. I mean, you look at this game when you I mean, they put up what 30 odd points and they still can't win a game. So yeah, defense is definitely to blame. And as you said, Tom, Lou Anamarino is probably going to lose his job.
All right, moving on, guys. The next game that you guys said we needed to talk about was the Indianapolis Colts defeating the New England Patriots in Foxborough, 25-24. This game came down to the wire. Who is going to tell us about what Richardson did to win this game?
Ollie, do you want to take it or should I?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I just saw the end. I mean, I didn't see most of the game. I know Richardson wasn't, the numbers weren't gaudy by any means. I think he only finished with just barely over 100 yards, 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. But it was the ending for me, that final drive, going down the field, getting them into that situation, and then basically on fourth down, had to have it, put the ball in Richardson's hands, and he delivered. He threw that absolute dart into the end zone for the touchdown, and then they had to get the 2-point conversion, of course. And he runs it in himself. He's able to convert, and it was just him kind of building on that. He got benched however long it was ago now, and since then, like as I said, the numbers haven't been gaudy, but they've won games, and he's scoring touchdowns. He's being impactful, and he's a reason why they're winning those games, which is something that obviously as me and Tom as big AR guys, we're happy to see. And then it did get quite crazy with the Patriots being able to get somewhat down the field at the very end in the little time that they did have, and they attempted a 68-yard field goal, which would have been an NFL record. And not only did they attempt it, it wasn't like the Justin Tucker one where there was a timeout. You're in a dome,
Mm.
and you can take all the time to kind of process it and all that. They had no timeouts. They had to literally run the field goal unit onto the field with barely any time, and he still was inches from making it. So just a really exciting ending to a game that, as I said, I didn't see too much of this. I know it was kind of the Patriots built a lead, and Drake May, from what I saw from him, he played really well. We can talk more about Drake May another time, but I'm sure that Patriots fans are absolutely ecstatic with what they've seen from him so far. But yeah, just the ending was an incredibly exciting final few minutes of this game, and one of the reasons why we love the NFL.
Yeah, yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, the Patriots basically blew away. I mean, that they should have won this game about nine times out of ten. If you look at the total yards, they have 422 to 253. They have more passing yards, more rushing yards, more yards per play. Like every stat would favored the Patriots, but it was just that final drive when the Colts needed it. Anthony Richardson, magic. Touchdown to Alec Pierce, gets the 2 point as well. And do you know how many times, Ollie, we've talked about this year about people, being conservative and not going for two at the end of games and
Yeah,
stuff. For them to put it in Richardson's hands and say,
yeah.
beat your blocker, get us the 2 point conversion and win us this game, and he did that. So,
And it didn't look like he did at first. On the
yeah.
TV, it didn't look like he got it, and then he was just able to sneak through, just able to sneak through.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And Shane Steichen, like, really respect, that aggressive play calling at the end as well to try and to win
Yeah,
that game. So, yeah, definitely respect that.
that's why he's got a fan in me.
There you go. And I'm a fan of this game, which was, for the Sunday slate, this was the one that I think we were all excited to watch, which, Ollie excluded, but it was the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Baltimore Ravens. And again, on paper, this game was supposed to be great. I could say watching it, while there were some awesome moments in the game, including a couple of some moments from Saquon Barkley, it wasn't that exciting of a game. But anyway, the Eagles came up on top 24-19, giving Lamar Jackson only his second loss ever to an NFC team
Yeah,
opponent, I believe. And this one was really, I mean, again, this was about the Eagles defense really just shutting down the Ravens offense. It just felt like I felt like I kept every time I turned around, I was like, "Oh, the Ravens got the ball." And then as soon like 2 seconds later, it'd be like, "Oh no, the Eagles now have the ball and they're driving down the field." Um, Saquon had another good solid day, 107 yards, a touchdown. Had a couple of receptions. Lamar, funny enough, did beat Jalen Hurts in terms of the tail of the tape if you're looking at it. And I still have a lot of questions about Jalen Hurts, but man, the Eagles defense is just so good. Their running game, then they play a great running game where they just keep the ball away from you and just have these long drives, which does include obviously Jalen Hurts converting on third downs in a way, third and fourth downs, I should say. Um, and again, the Eagles are looking so much different than they did earlier this season, and they're peaking at the right time. Whereas the Ravens feel like they kind of feel lost on offense in a way,
Mm.
and their defense, was decent today, but better than it had been against an Eagles team that can score. Um, anyway, what'd you guys think about this one?
yeah. I suppose I'll go as the resident the
It's an
resident
audio
AFC
format,
North
guys.
fan. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as you said, I mean, Saquon. I mean, this going into this game, it was we had everyone seen the stuff about Jacobs, Henry, and obviously Barkley. All three of them running backs that left their team last year, joined new teams, and their new teams are doing much better. And so we had two of those guys going up against each other. Two guys that a couple of weeks ago the statistical output was on track to beating the NFL record for rushing yards. Two guys that were just absolutely lighting it up. You could say that obviously Saquon Barkley won this battle of the running backs in this game. He was more effective than Derrick Henry was, but I think that was just the Eagles being more effective overall than the Bengals were. As you said, Chapman, the defense was really able to hold this Baltimore's offense in check. Just a great performance from them, and as you said, it was a boring game. The score makes it look like it was a bit closer than it was, but the touchdown at the literally last second of the game made this look a little bit more modest for the Ravens. But yeah, a game that I think we were all looking forward to. But I had this on. I didn't have this game on. Just as its own. I just had Red Zone on, and it didn't pop up that much on Red Zone, as you said, Chapman. Whenever the Ravens would do something, 2 minutes later on Red Zone, it would be the Eagles doing something. It seemed pretty back and forth, and a battle of nutrition really in this game. And in the end, the Eagles' run game and defense was able to come out on top.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, the Ravens took control at the start of the game. They scored the first 9 points. Really nice touchdown from Mark Andrews. Lamar just throwing it up to him and him just high pointing the ball. And just yeah, it was a really nice touchdown. But then yeah, that's when it feels like the Eagles so far this season, they haven't started well in the first like quarter. They've been kind of slow starters, but once they get going, they're really hard to stop. And that seemed the case again in this game. They scored what 14 unanswered, I think, after that to go up 14-9. And then, they just kind of took control of the game. A shout out to Zach Bond. I think he's the linebacker for the Eagles. He made a real impact in this game. He made a couple of good tackles for loss. Derek Henry and also Cooper DeJean as well. Just hit sticking Derek Henry in the backfield.
Yeah,
Um,
technique was absolutely perfect on that play, and
yeah,
not to
exactly.
not to enforce stereotypes, but great technique from Cooper DeJean on that one.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's it. The white the white cornerback. He was cooking on that one. But yeah, it also feels like a game that the Ravens kind of should have won like before the game anyway. In the lead up to it, like obviously I know the Eagles are playing well, but the Ravens are at home. And then Lamar after the game, lamented all the different chances that they had. He was like, "Why we can't get over these games playing at home against these top teams? Like we seem to be losing them more than we're winning them."
Yeah,
His mum even gave him a telling off.
yeah,
So
yeah. I
telling him
saw that
to
in the
telling
press
him to use
conference.
the run lanes more
Yeah,
because there was plenty of opportunities for him to run in this game. But yeah, all credit to the Eagles defense for stifling the Ravens offense and then just getting the job done. So yeah, and really nice touchdown run from Saquon Barkley. I think it was 25 yards where he just kind of slalomed in and out of Baltimore defenders on his way to
yeah,
the end zone. So but yeah, not the game it was built up to be, but still like an okay game.
yeah.
I
And I
mean, I
think
think it's. Oh, go ahead,
I
Ali.
was just
Sorry.
going to say, and on cue, as it's become a weekly tradition now, I think we have to ask the question of is Justin Tucker washed? Another
Oh, that's a
week,
good question.
another missed field goal. It seems to be becoming a trend.
Do you think they should just put him on IR, like, and just hope he sorts himself out, or like, what do they do?
Well, because
Because
imagine if it comes down to a Justin Tucker field goal in like the playoffs, like that's just a.
that just seems like how it's going to go,
It
though.
just feels like that's what's going to happen, doesn't it?
Well, that kind of goes into something I was going to say before we transition to some of these other games. But the thing is, come December, you sort of are who you are. And I was going to say the Eagles are peaking. They're gonna rely on tough defense. Jalen Hurts, maybe he's not. I think he's shown to be very talented, but he's not playing like a top flight quarterback. And again, it doesn't mean he can't do that. I'm just saying he's not playing like that right now. But he can. What I'm saying is the way they play the game and smartly run the ball, make key plays on offense, and then play really tough defense is a great recipe this time of year. I know it sounds really cliche, but and I can't stand the Eagles, just to be honest with you. I can't
Yeah,
stand all of Philadelphia sports. But you have to say hats off. Like it's okay to kind of suck at the beginning of the year or not suck or just not quite be yourself.
yeah,
Because if you get to this point and you start turning it on, they talked a lot about on the broadcast about, let's just go ahead and put the Lions and the Eagles in the NFC
yeah,
Championship game, which obviously is very premature and any given Sunday and all that. But um, you know, the eye test says these are probably easily the two best teams in the NFC, all things
yeah,
considered.
yeah,
Um, on the other hand, I also think this is a non-conference game, and while I know these two teams and their coaches want to win every single game, it probably just doesn't mean as much right now. I don't know, but and I don't say that as an excuse. I just say that is the Ravens have just they've come off some tough AFC opponents, and
Yep, including the Browns.
including the Browns. Yeah. So I just think maybe they're, they may just need some time off. I don't know. Anyway, we'll see. I think they do have a bye coming up,
They got
right?
a bye next week, haven't
I
they?
was going to
Yeah.
say, I
So
think that, yeah, this is
They
their
got a
bye
bye
week.
and then the Giants, so I think that's quite good for them.
Yeah,
yeah, it's a good
nice little
2 week.
2 week break for them
Yeah.
then.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think we should hit this next game because one of these teams is a playoff team. The other one, obviously, there was a big controversial play in this game, which was the Houston Texans defeating the Jacksonville Jaguar 23-20. This game is not going to be remembered for anything except for the hit on Trevor Lawrence, which I've been watching football a long time. That was a pretty nasty hit
Mhm.
by I have him up here in a second. Um,
Aziz,
Aziz
Aziz,
Al-Shaair.
yeah.
Aziz.
Um, Sorry, let me pull up some of these stats really quick. But the Houston Texans are actually the third most penalized team in
Mm,
all football, and Houston and Alshir actually was flagged last week for a late hit, and then week two he punched a Bears player too. So this guy kind of has a little bit of a thing, even though I saw his
Yeah,
apology this week. If you haven't seen the play, you can just Google it.
yeah, it's a nasty one.
Basically, yeah, Trevor Lawrence is going to slide, and as he slides, Alshir just basically
Lays him out.
tees off on him. He's giving himself up. All he has to do is touch him or follow him. And anyway, the Houston's have been penalized 95 times this season. Um, and this is really kind of what Ryan wants to do with his defense. They play very aggressive, but that aggressiveness is kind of reckless at a certain point. Anyway, it was played. Well, it looks like Trevor Lawrence is going to be okay, but he did leave the game. They had to get the almost a huge fight sort of occurred, which was sort of the theme of this weekend in all of football, both with college game and I guess in the NFL. But anyway, the Texans are 8-5. They're sitting atop of the AFC South. They seem like a flimsy team to me this season. I'm not quite sure still what they are. They st they the two win Jags basically made this a game too. And it comes down to a field goal to believe at the end. Not much to say. Did you guys have any thoughts about the play or anything like that on this one? Just sort of the reaction to it as well.
I mean, the play was just a cheap hit. I mean, it's
Yeah,
something that Al-Shaair has been accused of before. Obviously, he wants to play in a passionate way, but when that's to the detriment of the other player, like I mean, he's literally sliding down and then he more or less puts his forearm in his face, so
right.
like his elbow to a face, like it's not. That was nasty, especially it looked like he was knocked out for a few seconds, and luckily he was managed to get up and brought off the field and ruled out for the rest of the game as he should be with a hit like that. But then yeah, obviously he gets ejected, and then it felt like the Texans were gonna go on and comfortably win this game, but then the Jags kind of really pulled back into it. And thanks to the player Mac Jones, a player we haven't lauded for a long time. But he had two touchdowns, I believe, one to Brian Thomas, the outstanding rookie. And that made it a 3-point game, I believe. And then at the end of the game, when they needed it most, Joe Mixon, running for a first down to seal it. But not a convincing win from the Texans. I actually still think that the Colts can catch up with them potentially in the division. They're well, I think they're a couple of games back, but if not, the Texans are gonna. They just seem like a first round exit written all over them. The way that they're playing, the way they're, CJ Stroud, another not great game for him either, really. So, yeah, a lot of question marks for the Texans, and hopefully, Trevor Lawrence heals and is all okay.
yeah, yeah. I think they're definitely a team that if you're a wild card team in the AFC right now, you're really hoping that they win their division and you could get the matchup against them. I think most teams, if they could pick any team currently in the playoff spots to play, they'd pick the Texans. As you both said, they look. they don't look like their record suggests. I mean, as we say, you are what you are. So in the end of the day, they are what their record says they are. But they're just not playing well. And as you've both said, they've really close game against a 2-9 Jaguars team, and that's a 2-9 Jaguars team with the backup quarterback playing the majority of the game. As you said, Tom, shout out to Matt Jones. He came in and played well in this game, over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Yeah, more than capable backup. I mean, Matt Jones, the starter, different story. I think we'd all be having questions about that. But Matt Jones, the backup, hell, sign me up.
Absolutely. Well, not me, but yeah. I'm having a hard time picking the next one, guys, but I'm probably just going to go ahead and do my game and get it out of the way. Los Angeles Chargers travel to Atlanta and defeat the Falcons coming off their bye, 17-13. The Falcons coming off their bye. Um, what was interesting about this game is that the much maligned Falcons defense, which had pretty much been the laughing stock of the NFL, considering it only had 10 sacks in, I believe, 12 games, plays the game of the year for them, holding Justin Herbert to seven and the Chargers to 17 points. And sacking Justin Herbert 5 times in this game, and also I think forcing two different fumbles, turnovers. However, they were defeated themselves because Kirk Cousins decided to throw a career-tying 4 interceptions this game, including a pick six and a second interception, and then another red zone interception that would have put the Falcons up in this game. Yeah, also, Young Wei Koo continues his cold streak, misses 2 field goals. Also, could have been the difference in this one. Um, the Falcons, they give me no confidence, and I'm quite discouraged at this point because this was supposed to be the year where they start beating good teams, and right now all they can do is beat bad teams, um, and the offense cannot compete with a good defense, which is what the Chargers definitely brought to town. Though a lot of mistakes by Kurt. Um, the problem with Kurt right now is that he's can't move and everybody knows. Bijan was having a career day in the first quarter. He had like 40 or 50 yards and then like 15 yards receiving in the first quarter, and then somehow we just moved away from that. The Kurt's ball seemed wobbly. It just was bad. This wasn't a terrible game on Herbert's point, but he just had people up in his grill the whole time. Lab McConkey had, I think, the best game of his rookie season so far yesterday, which it's the only silver lining is that is as a Bulldog and he's a kid from Georgia. It's great seeing him come and be in the NFL. I mean, geez, he looks like
Didn't he get
he looks
injured
like
as well, though?
he looks like Wes Welker. Wes Welker and Edelman had a baby, and that's who he is.
I think he got
But yeah,
injured as well, didn't he?
he did. Yeah, he had a shoulder injury, which he did play through for part of the game, but then he finally came out. Um, he's a tough kid. He did the same thing at Georgia. He dealt with some different things at Georgia as well and played through them. Um, Again, Chargers are a feisty team. They can make some noise in the playoff. They play really well. Yeah, I mean, not don't have much to say. I'm really despondent about this whole Falcons situation. I think they're absolutely gonna choke away their this division and somehow not end up in the playoffs. And we're gonna have a lot of questions coming at the end of this season. Any thoughts on this one, guys?
I
I,
was,
I just I just have one question. You
Sure.
don't have to answer it. You can obviously quickly, if you don't want to pit. I was going to say,
No, of course.
at what point do you think, or is there a point when you start hearing calls for Penix?
Uh, it was already happening on Twitter during the game, after the pick six.
Yeah,
Raheem Morris was asked about it in the post game. He said, "Nope." I mean, Kirk Cousins is by all accounts a great dude. Everybody
yeah,
likes him. He is probably, I mean, he is shown to be a good leader. However, there's some real flaws to him coming off this Achilles heel, which he wasn't a mobile quarterback to begin with.
yeah,
And the Falcons did this to themselves. They paid him, and then they drafted Penix number, whatever it was, number eight, or yeah, number eight. But I don't think they're gonna put him in unless it just gets real. I mean, this is bad. This is probably hopefully is the worst that it will get. I mean, our schedules we have we go to Minnesota, which is our last tough game, but then it's on the road with the Raiders. We play the Giants. Washington, which is, they're a little washy, but that is Dan Quinn, so he's going to be motivated, obviously. And then
Yep.
I think we end the season Carolina. So that's technically we can win four of the next five and still make the playoffs. But I don't think anybody wants to see Atlanta in the playoffs. It's not going to be that fun. I don't even think. I mean, I want to see them have a winning record, but they're just not fun. Yeah, but they're gonna, I think they're gonna stick by Cousins at this point because it would put a lot of mud in their eyes if they don't.
Yeah.
And the Falcons front office have proven to be extremely stubborn and stuff like this. So, I mean, I think the only thing we kind of look at, like, I definitely was okay with parting ways with Arthur Smith because he wasn't a great head coach. Like, he lost a lot of dumb games. He only scored 30 points in 3 seasons 3 times.
Yeah.
But he goes to Pittsburgh that has a defense and has a lot of stability around it, and he does great. So, there's a lot of like, oh, they just let Arthur Smith. I don't know. I think the real thing here is Terry Fontenot. I just, I don't know. Anyway, the Falcons are probably going to be irrelevant in a few weeks, so we don't have to talk much more about them.
I was just gonna say one thing on the Chargers as
Yeah,
a positive thing. It was career day for the rookie Tar Heap still. He picked off Cousins twice. Obviously, I know, I think all of the picks were kind of bad picks from, when I was watching the broadcast of it. It was kind of signposted throws and stuff. But it was one of those was a pick six for him. So, another guy on the Chargers defense, the young guy who making an impact. So that was big for them. And just one last thing on the Falcons, and it's the final thing I'll say, that Kirk Cousins in the last 3 weeks has thrown 0 touchdowns and 6 picks. So it's I'm hoping that next week when he comes up against the Vikings that he can put on an all-time performance, but yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But yeah.
yeah, it is definitely not Kurt Cinder, whatever you want to say. So. All right, guys. I think there's only one more to kind of really discuss, and then we'll do quick hits on the other games. But
Yep.
so the Arizona Cardinals go to Minnesota and lose 23 to 22. Minnesota now has won five straight. They're 10-2, obviously still behind Fletch's Lions. I did get this. I kind of was still watching that Eagles. This was, in the late games, but I was still watching sort of the Eagles Ravens thing. But I think this was a real tough day for Murray, if I wasn't mistaken, because I felt like every time I
Yeah.
saw him, he was just getting slammed. And he had two interceptions in the game along with a touchdown. Sam Darnold wasn't great, or was pretty good. Sorry, he was pretty good. 235, two touchdowns. Um, anyway, did you guys have any thoughts on this one or see anything on this one?
Yeah, I was gonna say with the Vikings, it was a case of shooting themselves in the foot a bunch of times. Like Aaron Jones fumbled the ball twice, but then he made up for it at the end, with the game-winning touchdown. And then it was a game, as you said, it was a fairly quiet game to start with from Sam Darnold, but when it mattered most, when it came down to it in the second half, he had think he went 15 for 17, 174 yards, 2 touchdowns. So, he really turned it on when they needed it. And with the yeah, but the Cardinals blew this game again. They were up 19-6 at one point, and you thought
Yeah.
that they were just gonna kind of ice out the game. But all credit to the Vikings for bringing it back and picking off Kyler Murray as well. So yeah, it was quite an exciting game to be fair for a 19-6 game at the time. But yeah,
Well, there's one thing here is, the Jonathan Gannon, the head coach for the Cardinals, they were up three, and they had a 3 point lead towards the end of the game, and they're facing a fourth and goal from the Minnesota 4 yard line, and Gannon decided to send his kicker out for the go ahead to get them up by six instead of going for a game sealing touchdown. And sure enough, Sam Darnold led the Vikings down the field, scored a touchdown to win the game. Um, not great.
Yeah.
I guess interesting enough. And he's been kind of known for these kind of conservative decisions. Um,
Defensive guy that quite clearly trusts his defense a bit too much in that
yeah,
situation.
yeah, exactly. Anyway, just worth a quick mention. All right, I'm gonna zoom through a couple more of these scores really quick, and if there's any of these games you guys want to throw any tidbits, let's do that. So the Tennessee Titans at 3-9 lose to the Washington Commanders 42-19. Los Angeles Rams defeat the Aints 21-14 on a day where the Falcons look absolutely crap. It was nice to see the Saints lose. And then finally last night on Sunday Night Football, Josh Allen throws, runs, and catches a touchdown in this game, defeating the lonely 49ers 35-10 in a snow game that looked like a lot of fun, but for the Buffalo fans. Anything on any of those games, guys?
I was gonna say the Josh Allen touchdown that was crazy as well because he threw a pass to Amari Cooper. He then throws it back to him, and then he gets the touchdown. It was like an absolutely mad play.
Do
Um,
laterals count as receiving touchdowns? I thought they didn't.
They do. Yeah.
They do? All
Yeah,
right.
lateral
yeah,
counts as a pass. Yeah.
Well, it obviously does because it counted as a receiving touchdown. But I think I was quite. I saw a few people confused by it on Twitter.
and also to add to the woes for the 49ers, it's suspected that Christian McCaffrey is,
Yeah.
torn his PCL, I believe. So he's suspected to be out for the rest of the year. I mean, at this point, there was no point bringing him back, was there really, with the way that it's going for the 49ers with these injuries and everything. I mean, in my opinion, I think, Kyle Shanahan should get some of the heat as well because I know obviously they're out some players and what have you, but they really have not played well this year. They've not played winning football, and he should take some of the flack for that, I think. So
Yeah. I
I
don't
do
really have
have
any.
I
Oh,
do have
good.
some
Yeah.
breaking news regarding the Saints.
All
Taysom
right.
Hill has torn his ACL
mm,
and other
Ah,
damages. So that
uh,
obviously seems quite bad. At his
yikes.
age, you wonder if that's possibly it for
career
him.
ender maybe. Yeah.
Which, if it is, at least he had that absolutely insane performance against the Browns just before it did end. To top it off, obviously hoping that's not, but yeah, just a bit of obviously unfortunate news for Saints fans.
Yeah. Yeah, and I really needed a win in fantasy this week to make the playoffs, and all AJ Brown underperformed, Taysom Hill went out. I had like just all sorts of bad luck. I'm just whatever, I'm out of it. Um, why don't we talk a little bit about Browns Broncos before we get out of here? Even though we are the review
Yep,
show, but there is a preview of Monday night, and we have all our Browns fans. After the big win last week,
yep.
what are you expecting tonight?
I mean, history would suggest that we're going to lose this game. This is the Browns' least successful matchup against any NFL team in their 80-year history. They have the lowest win percentage against the Broncos than any other team. That's including even the defunct teams. It really has been our Achilles heel. We've only beaten them 5 times since 1974. And in those 5 wins, the largest margin of victory was 3 points.
At least you'd have
To
Ernest Miner, Ollie.
Yeah. I mean, everyone knows obviously the fumble, the drive, the free AFC Championship game wins over the Browns for the Broncos. They really have dominated this matchup, 25-7 all time. But the Browns did win the only other previous Monday Night Football matchup against the Broncos, all the way back before I was born in 1990. And they won that game by 1 point on track, on form with how most of these games have gone. But I don't know. I'm kind of like cautiously optimistic. I feel like coming off that big win, as you said, the team should be motivated. They've had a full 10 days to prepare for this game. A mini bye essentially. So I'm cautiously optimistic, but as most Browns fan knows, that could easily be completely wiped away within the first 5 minutes of this game. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to stay up for it because I booked these prime time games off work before the season started. Obviously, I had much different expectations for where the team would be for these prime time games in terms of their record and how important these games would be. But nevertheless, I booked the day off, so I'm going to stay up anyway. So yeah, looking forward to it, and it's going to be a close game as history would suggest. But I think the Browns have got enough to pull it out. And Jerry Judy
Nice.
revenge game, of course.
And let's see if Bo Nix can continue to light it
So
up,
we're
much to
stopping
Ollie's lament.
we're stopping the momentum this week.
How long did you workshop that?
About 6 hours.
Well, there's a reason why you're on the Sleep at Work network, because you literally will be asleep. Well, you won't be at work tomorrow. Good for you.
Thankfully.
Well, I hope you enjoy the game. Good luck. I will never root for the Denver Broncos, so go Browns.
Thank you.
Uh,
Neither will I. So
I
yeah.
appreciate
um,
both of you.
so question for you guys. So there was as we mentioned earlier, there was a lot of fights in the college games this year, mainly because of flag planting, which feels lame.
Yep.
Um, but wanted to ask you guys, so if for your NFL team, what would be a fightable offense for one of your rivals for you guys? If and who, what would it be? Mine's easy. I'm gonna go first. It's when you've handily won a football game, and then you signal that you're going in for a victory formation, only to run a touchdown into the game to end the game, which did actually get my coach fired, which we were grateful for. But I honestly think the entire Falcons off bench should have just gone over and
Well,
started in a fight. But weird things happen in the Superdome, so it probably was a smart decision not to do that.
well, thankfully they didn't because that guy is now my team's quarterback. And
Yeah.
for me, I think if the Steelers beat us and got those yellow towels anywhere near the elf in the middle of the field, then that would be a fightable offense for me.
Yeah.
I think it would be the same for if the Raiders. Well, they actually did try and do this before in a game where the Chief absolutely bludgeoned them. But when they try and disrespect and stand on the middle of the field, Arrowhead, yeah, I ain't having that.
I mean, you've beaten up on the Raiders enough already, so I don't think I come on, leave them alone.
No,
Well,
no. They're the most hated of the division rivals for me. So
Yeah.
that's fair. Um, well, I just thought it'd be a funny question just because it seems like there was a lot of let's stop the violence in football. We don't need it. We don't need it
I
in the
mean,
stands. We don't need it on
it's
the
ridiculous. I mean, this is me as an Ohio State fan. If you lose, yeah, and the team plants their flag, if you should have stopped them from winning the game. Do you know what I mean?
Mm,
Don't wait till after the game. You should have stopped them during the game. So in the end of the day, it's all you know what I mean. It's all fun and games. It's all part of the competitive nature of the sport. And we all hate to see it when it does spill over into that violent side of it because I'm all for fair competition. I'm all for as I can't even, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name, but the guy that injured Trevor Lawrence tried to say, it's all
Aziz Al
within
Shaair.
I'll show you. Yeah.
the grounds of the sport, but it should never ever go over that. But in terms of the flag planting, yeah, I mean, God, if you're going to get annoyed about something for a team beating you, then you should have stopped them during the game.
Yeah.
Agree.
Um, well, thank you, gentlemen, for that. Um, we'll see. Well, this is kind of going to be the home stretch. We're in December now. Happy December, guys. The holidays are going to be
Yep.
approaching. They'll be around the corner. And we're going to see some snow. We've already seen some snow games this week, which was exciting, and last week, obviously. But yeah, this is it. We're gonna see what happens. Um, and I'm excited for the playoffs, to be honest with you. So. All right, guys. It's been excellent hanging out with you as always. Thank you for joining us. Thank you guys for listening. The preview team will be back on Friday as they always are. Carl, Sam, Fletch, the group, and excited to hear what they have to say about the next week's slate of games. Until then, uh, I'm just gonna say hurdle that line. That's all you gotta do. You just gotta hurdle the line. Actually, do the name of the show.
Yep.
Thanks so much for listening.